It's time to show you the Shogun. Hello everyone, Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends. We are here on my free-to-pause account because I actually came up with a fairly clever Shogun 20 team that works on this particular account. Now, I'm not going to say I know this is an accessible team that anybody can manage, but this works for this particular build, so I wanted to show it to you. I wanted to show you an option to maybe inspire you guys to maybe look and see what you can do on your own for this Phantom Shogun team. I will talk about some of the important parts of it that I know need to happen. I'll talk about some of the parts of it that may or may not have to happen for you to get this to work properly, but it's an accessible Phantom Shogun 20 team. Now, it's not 25. For 25, I've got a video. I'll try to link that up there for an all-rare team that honestly I probably could build on this account with a little bit of dedication and work. I just haven't really had a chance to sit down and do it yet, and honestly, rare books have actually been a bit of a problem on this account, strangely enough. So let's go take a look at the Phantom Shogun team, talk about how you can tackle Phantom Shogun, and let's see what we can do. But first of all, I would appreciate if you guys hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. You guys are absolutely amazing. Do you know that there's a better chance that you are not subscribed to this channel when watching this video than those of you that are subscribed to this channel? Why is that? Why are you not subscribed to this channel, checking out this video? I appreciate you having it here, and hopefully you would be interested in subscribing and supporting my channel because I do content like this all the time. So I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear what you guys are doing in Phantom Shogun, and honestly, I'd love to hear anything in Sand Devil too. Sand Devil has been definitely a bigger problem on this account, but Phantom Shogun seems pretty solvable. So let's go dive into that. Just let me know down below, what kind of teams are you using? All right. So this is the team I am running. It's pretty simple, actually. It is, a couple of healers, a cleanser, and 2 damage dealers. Specifically, I also have Tholen in the lead there. Tholen has had my highest crit damage. You'll notice I actually don't have any presets for this team because this team actually doesn't need any presets. It works just fine without the presets, which is absolutely amazing. So what is the theory of this particular team? Well, because we are not beyond stage 20, the mechanics work slightly differently with the way the boss works. So what happens is the way the Phantom Shogun works is he's got this shade counter. And basically the shade counter, when he gets hit and gets a weak hit, or when he does certain things, he increases his shade counter, particularly when things cleanse. When people cleanse, the weaken that he'll put out he'll increase his shade counter as well. He loses it by taking damage and hits from people with high blessings. So one of the things that he will do is the very first thing he will do is he will put weaken on the champion with the highest crit damage. And in this particular case, it is Tholen. Now, why is that actually not a very big problem on this particular team? Well, Tholen's got a couple things going for him. One, he's got a 5-star blessing, which means that even as a weak hit, because of the 5-star blessing, he's going to mitigate a bunch of the extra shade counters he gets. So as a result, he only puts 1 or 2 shade counters up per attack, even when he is weak hitting. And he hits for a decent enough damage that he'll actually hit fairly hard. The other thing that Tholen will do is Tholen can take extra turns every once in a while. Now, he gets some of his passive mitigated by the boss, but he will eventually take an extra turn here or there, which means that what happens is he will actually outrun the weaken buff and will actually land a big hit a couple of times during the fight because he simply won't have weaken on him. Everyone else generally won't get weaken until it's the second turn, and what'll happen is Mithrala will do the first cleanse, and she'll cleanse and cleanse everything off, and so you won't get the weaken. And then between her and Ugo, they will generally keep weaken off the team most of the time. So is it perfect? No. I think I have failed once in about 120 runs on this, so there is apparently a chance of failure with this team. But let's go take a look at the stats on this team. I'm actually going to set up a team preset just to kind of show you how this team looks. All right, so Tholan here, we've got the Demon Breaker. He's not programmed to do anything. As I said, no programs were needed for this stuff, but you can see he's 216 speed. He's got 317 accuracy. You only need about 250 to 275 accuracy at floor 20. Floor 21, things ramp up quite a bit, and I think by 25, you need about 40 or 400 accuracy. So do bear that in mind for tackling the boss if you need to go further up in the stages. But he's got this, the hit that'll do decrease attack here on champions or drop their attack. He's got this hit here that puts the weaken up. The weaken, where he gets the extra turn, is interesting because he does this before he attacks. He can land the weaken against the boss. So it's a 25% chance bookable to 50. It's a 75% chance against the boss. And he'll get an extra turn if he lands that weaken. So using his A1, he has a chance to get an extra turn and just take another turn and wear off the weaken quickly enough just by landing it on his A1, which is great. So he gets extra turns from that. He technically gets extra turns from this, but one of the things the Phantom Shogun does, the Phantom Shogun negates passives. So this is actually why your Brognies and your Geomancers don't work very well against Shogun. That doesn't mean that Brogni's not a good champion to bring against Shogun, because the rest of his kit might actually be helpful for you, but he doesn't do the reflect damage on the shield, so you're not going to get any reflect damage because you're not going to have passive. There is no way to avoid this. That is a passive that happens. The only way, I guess, to avoid that technically is to start with Stone Skin, and you will get it put on you later on because the boss will do some spreading debuff options anyway. So you can't permanently avoid not having it, but you can avoid not having it for a turn or two using Stone Skin. But overall, that it's not a good solution for, say, having a Geomancer on your team. That is, however, a better option for having somebody such as a Acresia on the team who will do a couple of max HP hits first before she then loses that ability to do so. So Tholan, not programmed. You can see the stats right here. Reasonably fast, lots of crit damage, good accuracy. Tagore, he's got accuracy that's incidental. He doesn't need the accuracy. What you're really looking for is the speed, good speed, HP and tankiness, and he's pretty much set. He'll generally do his increased speed most of the time to start, which is what you want. There's where the extra healing. It's nice to have this shield up occasionally. It keeps everyone alive, and if he has a revive with it, it's great. Mithrala here is certainly super helpful. Mithrala gives you both the increased defense and increased attack, which can be very helpful in surviving some of the hits as well as doing additional damage. And then you get the strength in here as well as the shield and the cleanse. This is the important part, because what we're hoping for this is we're hoping for Mithrala to cleanse the weaken most of the time. So you want her to, basically, have this skill. If you don't have a Mithrala, that's fine. You can certainly do the same thing with a Reliquary Tender. If you have a Reliquary Tender and you're using a Reliquary Tender with similar speeds, you're going to want to make sure that Reliquary Tender does something other than Horror Cleanse as the first skill. So you're going to want to A1 first with Reliquary Tender, or anybody that is a cleanser. You're going to want to not do the cleanse on the first skill, because you want to wait until the boss spreads the weaken before you do the cleanse. Cold Heart, probably don't need to explain her that much, but she hits really hard here. Honestly, as far as a program is concerned, we probably should actually just turn this off, but it doesn't hurt. You know what? I'm not going to turn this off, because every once in a while, it's better if she does that than the Flurry of Arrows. It's not a huge problem, though. Otherwise, she's just going to do a bunch of damage with the Heartseeker. That's generally what she does. It makes a lot of sense. The only thing that can be a problem with Cold Heart is if you don't have a high blessing on Cold Heart, if she is weakened, this Flurry of Arrows quad hitter can be very, very bad for your run. So you really want to have at least a 3-star soul on your Cold Heart to be able to use one. Otherwise, any other damage dealer would be fine. And keep in mind that this is a Force boss, so you are generally looking for Void, Spirit, or Force-based champions, probably not Magic champions in most cases. Ugo brings the decreased defense. The block buffs doesn't necessarily help much, but its decreased defense is great. And then Ugo has an ability to do a single cleanse, so you may get weaken off of some people if this becomes the cleanse that gets the weaken off, and you give some extra healing as well. Keeping everyone alive can be very, very helpful for the boss. So save this here. Haven't really done much of anything to change it, but we'll save it anyway. And here is the run. So, Stage 20 is not going to get you some of the chaos dust or whatever the dust is that lets you re-roll some of the ascension stats. So I'm not suggesting this is something to be farming constantly. However, I built this to be able to farm stage 20 so I could get the pull for the prism shards on my free to play. And for those purposes, it was very helpful. Plus, now that I can actually grow some of my accessories, that's extra stats I can get on some of my champions. Now, even if I cannot re-roll them particularly reliably, generally most of the stats are generally helpful for most champions. So your rings are going to get attack, defense, or HP, and there's very few champions that can't use any of those, although a lot of champions are not going to get a lot of value out of attack. You're going to get, either HP, defense, or attack, or crit damage out of your amulets, and crit damage is a great way to add damage to your nukers. So that's something I'm certainly looking forward to see if I can get that on champions. And then of course for the banners, you can pretty much get the same main stats that you can get in banners as additional substats. And outside of resistance being very niche, for the most part, those stats can help just about any champion that gets anything ascended. So this is still stuff that can give you extra stats on your account, even if they're not necessarily going to be the right stats for you, or you can choose them specifically. They are good stats to have, and eventually once you get to stage 25 and are able to get some of that dust as well, you can start re-rolling some of those items that didn't roll particularly well to start. But also having some of this dust means you can throw this dust and throw some of those advancements on your accessories that maybe aren't that great, but you don't care because you have the extra dust. So, it doesn't hurt to farm this thing. It's not something I would sit down and farm constantly, but for this event, it certainly didn't seem like a bad thing to be farming. So let's get into the run here. As you can see here, he is fast enough to go first. Tholen cannot be critical hit by this boss. That's actually one of the reasons that Tholen is absolutely incredible for this stuff. Don't have a Tholen? Any damage dealer with a 5-star soul should work just fine. Now you see I've got the weaken up here, and Mithrala cleanses the weaken, so nobody has the weaken, so we're not weak hitting. And as you can see, the shade counter right here, we are slowly but surely keeping that down by the various hits and the million blessings that we have on these champions. Everybody here has at least a 2-star blessing or 3-star blessing. I think Ugo's is the 2-star. Everyone else is a 3-star or higher. That is very, very helpful in this. So you want to be farming souls with Iron Twins. I just did a video on Iron Twins. You can certainly check that out. It's probably going up before this one goes up. And then, there's plenty of, stuff going around. So, all right, Mithrala got the cleanse there. That's good. At some point in time, depending on where this boss is, Mithrala's cleanse is not going to be quite on time, so it can get a little hairy sometimes, but that's why we have 2 different cleansers on this team, including Ugo. And as you can see right now, nobody has the weaken because we've actually outrun it because of extra turns that Tholen is getting. So, and Tholen getting extra turns there, he's just nuking the boss down. And at this point in time, we have probably won this stuff. Those poisons might just do it. Not quite. So, but doesn't matter because Tholen, even with a weak hit, does enough damage to kill him. So, minute 30 run. It's been as short as a minute 6. Sometimes it takes 2 minutes, a little longer. Gets you all 3 of the stages of rewards you're looking for. It's only 16 energy, so it's actually a fairly efficient farm to get to the top for the event, at least as far as this particular account is concerned, because for this account, it was like 6,400, I think, to get to the top. So made sense for me to do, gave me a bunch of interesting stuff, and I've got a chance at getting, maybe a Volcanos or another Demon Spawn Legendary, or if not, some good Demon Spawn Epics on this account. So it's effectively a free Sacred I earned on this account. So that's the core mechanics of the team. So don't have some of these champions. Who can you swap out? Well, Cold Heart can be swapped out for any other damage dealer. Again, you're going to want probably a 3-star blessing on those champions as well. Mithrala is the one that's got the 2-star, not Ugo here. Mithrala is definitely key. You're going to want Mithrala in this team. If you don't have Mithrala in this team, Reliquary Tender or anybody with a 3-turn cooldown cleanse is going to be very, very helpful. You're looking for a full cleanse though, not just a random cleanse. It has to be a 3-turn full cleanse. Ugo is good because you get a secondary cleanse, and if you don't have one 3-turn cleanse, you could probably do with 2 different 4-turn cleansers. Will probably work just fine. Probably not ideal, but it is something that you can certainly do. Having some healing, so that's where Tagore comes in. He also has a revive in case of emergencies, and he'll throw the shield up, which can mitigate some damage. Tholen being the key here. It doesn't have to be Tholen, but having a nuker who is of a good affinity and has a 5-star soul will be great. Don't have a Tholen, Lemonisi, who is also a force-based champion that you're going to guarantee to get a 5-star soul for, will fit the job just fine. She is not going to outdamage Tholen, but what she will do is she will do what Tholen is still doing, where she is not really putting the counter up that much, and she's attracting the attention of the boss, as long as she has the most crit damage. You do not want your Coldheart to be the one with the most crit damage, because Coldheart weak hitting with that A1 that's a quad hitter is bad. So generally you really don't want her to A1 while she's weakened, which is why we left her A2 on for this particular preset. So hey, hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully that was a little entertaining. Again, I don't know the exact stat ranges you need for all of these champions, so I would try to keep them around the right. Around 250 for Vithrala seems to be the right to keep her in tune with the boss, so she does the cleanse at the right time. Maybe it needs to be just a little bit faster. I know when you want to tune her for stage 25, you actually want her to be around 283, I believe, is the speed for that particular team. Again, there's a video I'll link to that. If I haven't linked to it above, I'll also have it at the end of the video, but I think I linked to it earlier. At least hopefully I did. And yeah, it is a very accessible team for the most part. It doesn't need all these legendaries, especially if you can, you know, get the right champions to do what you need to do. Any champion that is not going to be a magic champion with a 5-star soul and the most crit damage can be kind of your Phantom Shogun tank. I just think Tholen does it probably better than most other champions, especially if you have the 5-star soul for him, because he cannot be crit hit by the boss, which means that he will almost never die because the boss can't one-shot him. So, hey, hit that like button again, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate all the support. Again, let me know what you guys are running in Phantom Shogun or Sand Devil, or are you even farming those? You know, let me know. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. I appreciate it. Much love. And you guys have a wonderful day. Until the next video, I am Bront CatHerder.